Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another DC Comics deck building game. This is for Justice League Dark. So we get to take on some of the more magical elements of the DC universe. Um, like the Shadow Pack, Constantine Zatanna, as well as Wonder Woman, who is also a very magical character, being just created from magic. They don't usually classify her as that. So there's a couple of things we want to go through this before we jump into the actual content. First of all, I have this cool box art. This was Kickstarter alternate box art, so you might not see this one. You'll probably see a regular one, more of a picture like this on there. But yeah, and I did have my on my cover page. You'll see at the beginning of the video I had the other artwork on there as well. I just thought this one looked a little bit more cool. It does have the name in there, very hard to read. The other thing is, this was also a Kickstarter exclusive edition. So I'll go through all the regular content for the main game, which is going to be our 215 standard cards, 8 oversized multiverse divider rulebook, plus the first printing of Jason Blood and Etrigan cards, and 4 sealed tokens. And the first printing is always usually on the box. You'll say it's a first printing. So definitely keep an eye on that if you're looking for those 2 cards, because if you buy this in retail later on, it might not be the first printing anymore. Those cards might not be available. They usually end up reselling them on Cryptic Zillit's website, so definitely keep an eye out for that if you're looking for some of those. And then there's going to be 2 other big things we're going to go through in this video. We're going to have all the Kickstarter exclusives. So when I get to those, I'll definitely make sure I remind you these are all Kickstarter exclusive stuff. But then also we have included in here is the Justice League Dark expansion, which is actually the Injustice League. So this is a little 53 card set, 6 oversized characters. Basically, it lets you play as the villains, which is really cool. Now, they are not listed as part of the Kickstarter exclusive. They were included in this box for the Kickstarter campaign. They do not have the Kickstarter logo on the bottom or anything, so I would assume that in the future they might release those as a separate expansion, but I don't promise anything. So again, keep that in mind if you are looking to make sure you get everything. You might want to look for the Kickstarter box to get all these and these. They might release some of the Kickstarter cards on their website as well. They've been trying to keep up with doing that for people. By re-releasing them or reprinting some promo versions of stuff, but there's never a guarantee on any of that. Cool. So that's the different content we're going to go through. The other thing we want to check out is some of the new rules. So if you're familiar with the game, deck building game, it's very simple. Is you're going to have your stacks of cards, your main decks of cards, heroes, villains, superpowers, locations, equipment, different stuff you can pick up. You're going to have your starting set of cards. But this is going to have a little bit of extra magical twist to the game. So each player begins the game with a starting set of 6 punch cards, 2 vulnerability cards, which are very, very familiar with everybody. Except you're also going to get 1 incantation and 1 sealed defense card. So you get 2 extra special magical cards. And you're also going to want to take 1 of the 4 sealed tokens. And this is just so that each player has their own to mark where their sealed deck cards are. So we're going to have a special zone here now called the Transformation Zone, which we'll have to go through and look at stuff as well. Plus, we have a new stack of cards, so instead of kicks, we have mystical rituals, which is going to be a little bit different as well. We're going to look at what some of that stuff does. So the main game will play the exact same. Player cards, purchase everything, does the same thing. We go to the Transformation Zone, which will go up above the lineup. This is basically a stack of cards that when a card transforms or transforms into something, you put them up there just to store them. And then you have your stacks of cards off to the side. All that stuff stays basically the same. Everything else, you play your cards, you add up, you purchase cards, defeat villains, attacks, defenses, all stay the same. One big kind of change in the recent history of the DC deck building game are Nemesis cards. So the term Nemesis is collectively refers to the standard sized cards with supervillain and superhero subtypes. So we have like our regular villains and heroes, which we can play. You purchase, they go to your deck, and then you have the super villains, or superheroes if you're playing a villain, or here you're playing as villains to try and beat. Now they just collectively refer to them as nemesis. That way they work for all the different aspects of all the different games. Otherwise, they're completely interchangeable. So if something ever says, this card attacks, it does a villain, it only does a villain card. If it says super villain, it does a super villain card. If it says superhero, it can also target a super villain. Therefore, you can mix and match your super villains, your superheroes together just to form a nemesis deck. It says, during your turn, you spend power equal to the cost of the top card of the nemesis deck to defeat them. If you do, gain the top most face-up card from the nemesis stack and place it into your score pile. Then resolve the effect after the keyword reward in that game's text. So these are going to play a little bit differently, because some of the older ones you used to actually be able to then add into your deck, and you used to be able to play them. Now they're giving out rewards instead. So yeah, some of the earlier Nemesis supervillains, and maybe even villains, when you purchased them, you defeated them, they went into your deck and basically just got a really powerful card. Now instead, they're going to do is just give you out a reward. It's just going to let that go ahead and end. And you're going to get a... yeah, it's just kind of different. Starting cards, discard, gain, ongoing, all that stuff stays the same. Nothing new there. So new concepts. We have Surge. When a card tells you to surge, add the top card of the main deck to the lineup. This can cause the lineup to increase above 5 cards. Note that surging while there are no cards in the main deck does not cause the game to end. It will only end when the next card has to be regularly drawn. Score pile. Each player has their own score pile. They keep their sealed cards you own but do not control the cards in your score pile. They are not part of your deck and will not be able to play those cards with those special abilities. When you gain a card with a reward keyword, such as on Nemesis card, it goes into your score pile instead of your discard. At the end of the game, cards in your score pile are accounted for your final score. So this is basically your victory VP point pile. They're just now, I guess, renaming it to score pile specifically. Again, you give it a key trigger. Just go to look for this. That's where it wants you to look for it. Sealing cards. When it tells you to seal a card, place a card in your score pile. The card's ability will always tell you what zones the card can be sealed from. When the word sealed is in bold, it gives you the player ability to seal a card. When you see the word seal without bold, that means it is part of an ability that triggers when a card is sealed. If you see seal in a card you do not own, such as the lineup, you're considered to gain that card. An ability refers to a sealed card. It refers to the sealed cards in your score pile unless otherwise stated. We have blue banner text. Some cards have blue banner on the top of their text box. So the text only matter after the card moves between certain zones. For this one, it says like word of power. You ignore the text when you play it and guarantees 2 power. If you discard it from your hand to your deck, then you get to use the special ability. So it's basically saying when you play it, you only do the white part, but if you meet a certain goal, you get to do the blue part, just to kind of keep them a little bit separate, which is very nice. The big new thing is transforming cards. A transform card has a key transform in its text. If you meet the specific requirements on a transform card when you play it, you gain access to a specific card. You must meet the conditions. You play the card immediately in your turn does not allow you to transform it. So if it says, for just a quick example, like the transform, it says if you have played 2 other heroes, you can transform this card. You have to play 2 heroes before you play that card. You can't play that card, then play 2 heroes. So if you purposely don't want to transform something, you can always play it in a different order. Transform always causes you to seal the transform card. After placing a card in your score pile, you gain a new card directly from your hand unless otherwise stated. And then here's this. First, check to see if the card is in the transform is in your score pile. So it's basically telling you where to check it. If it's in your score pile, you gain it. If it's not in your score pile, check the transformation zone. So maybe you're transforming back and forth. Go there. If it's not there, you can check the destroyed pile and you can gain it. Finally, if the name card's on any of the above zones, you are not allowed to gain the card. So this could mean another player has already purchased a transform. So a big one we're going to have is Shazam with Billy Batson. You play a Billy Batson card, you need to transform. If it's available in the transform because nobody's done it already, you can go ahead and gain it. If it's in your sealed pile because you sealed it before, you used him already, he'll be in that deck. If he's been destroyed, you can go find him. But if the other player has it in their deck or in their hand, or if it's in your deck or in your deck, you can't use it. Yeah, it has to be in one of the other zones. So this does kind of limit to how, so some players can kind of monopolize certain transform cards. Anything that triggers off of playing a card resolves now. You do not transform when you play a card or resolve otherwise in the text box. So it's just specifying Billy. And then we have reverting transform. Some cards with the revert keyword may not permanently stay in their transform state. This keyword is similar to transform, but different in a few important ways. Reverting is never optional. So transform you can choose to do if you like. Maybe you might not want to because you want to keep the other card in your hand for whatever reason. If you meet the required revert condition on transform, you must revert it. So like Shazam there says if there's no superpowers in your discard pile, you have to do it. So you have to watch it. Now, note, if you really don't want to revert a card, you can choose not to play it. So you just don't play it and then it doesn't happen. So if I have no superpowers in there, I might not play Shazam. I might try and play a superpower card first, play something that lets me draw a card, purchase one so it goes in my discard pile. Then I could play them without transforming them. Otherwise, I'm going to play them, I'm going to get all the effects of them, and then he's going to immediately switch back. Another fun thing we have in here are brand new weakness cards. So some cards force player gain one or more weakness. We've seen weakness before. They just give us basically junk cards in our hand, except now they're not. Now they actually have different effects. So each effective player takes the indicated number of weakness cards from the stack placed in their discard pile, adding to their deck. If a weakness stack runs out, so weakness cards, so weakness stack runs out, cause ability to gain a defense stack do so. A player who misses a defense card to avoid an attack even there are no weakness to be gained. Weakness cards in Justice League Dark reduce your score at the end of the game by 2 BP. While these cards have larger penalties in previous games, they also have a built-in way to get rid of them. During your turn, you may choose to play a weakness from your hand to discard 2 other cards. Return the weakness to its stack. Note that if you have multiple weaknesses, you'll need to discard 2 cards for each weakness. So that's kind of cool. They're a little bit more penalizing, but you have a way to get rid of them. And then this just talks about mixing and matching stuff from other games, specific characters, and combining stuff with your multiverse box set. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hop into some of this stuff. Alright. So first of all, we have our tokens. Now, these are the Kickstarter versions. They're a little bit thicker. I don't know how much thinner the regular ones are going to be. And you normally only get these 4. This one here is a Kickstarter exclusive token. Because the Kickstarter exclusive added a 5th player option. Yeah, they don't, in themselves, they're not going to do anything. They don't do anything extra other than you can play them with this side. Or you can play them with this side. They're just going to put them on stacks, where your sealed pile is, just so you're not getting it mixed up with other decks. And that's the only point of those, for the most part. Alright, now we're going to, of course, get our deck divider. And then, I think the first card we're going to look at is, and we have a randomizer as well, for the multiverse set. We're going to look at our promo card. I'm going to jump right into that to begin with. So we have Jason Blood here to start off with. So this would be, again, limited time promo. Usually these guys, I think Cryptozoic ends up adding in. You can eventually purchase later on. Some people can't buy the game right when it comes out. But Jason Blood Soulbound. Costs 7, so it's pretty expensive. But it's 3 power and defense. Discard this card to avoid an attack. If you do, choose 1. Draw 2 cards or transform Seal. Seal this card and gain Entragon Soulbound to your discard pile. So you can play this as a defense, either you can get 2 extra cards to help, which is always nice, or you can transform and get Entragon. So then you go look for this, and you would find Entragon. Now, you might be like, why do transform cards have a cost on them if they're never in the actual play zone? One, there might be an effect that somehow puts a card back into a play zone. That's always a possibility. Otherwise, there might be other cards that reference the cost. That's why they included them all in there. So it says your nemesis Your nemesis I may slay, and no power you will pay. If you choose to make this deal, gone this demon you must seal. So if you're not from Entrogen, he's the rhyming demon. Basically what this effect does is you can defeat a nemesis without paying any power, so 1 free nemesis defeat, but then you have to seal this card away, which gets rid of him. But also note that what it does here is you're transforming, you're sealing this, and then gaining Entrogon, and then when you use Entrogon, you're sealing them back. There's not a revert back to Jason Blood, which is kind of interesting. So it's kind of like a one and done, but the fact is you can power him up to defeat one guy for free could be very good. Alright, we're going to look at our hero cards, and then we'll jump into the main deck stuff. So we're going to start off with our everyone's favorite British magician, John Constantine. The first time you play a non-starter card each turn, you may seal it. If you do, draw a card. So that's kind of cool. It doesn't help you get rid of starter deck cards, which are very helpful to get rid of in deck building games, but it will, however, let you get rid of some of the other ones you pick up. You can pick up other cards, you just buy whatever you need, right? And then you can always at least get rid of them, sacrificing them. We have Zatanna, our backwards speaking magician. The first time you play a hero each turn, +1 power. The first time you play a superpower each turn, you may put a card from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. Nice. And this could work really well because if you time it right, you could play heroes, gain your power, buy a superpower card, or buy a card, then play your superpower card, put that card you just purchased on the bottom of your deck and have access to it quicker. We're going to get Detective Chimp, so some of the Shadow Pack here, which is really fun. I think he has a sigh. The first time you play an equipment each turn, +1 power, and you may put a card you gain from the lineup this turn on top of your deck. So he'll gain equipment easier. He's a kind of focus on. He's like the Batman of the group, ability-wise. We get Dr. Fate, of course. The first time you seal a card each turn, draw a card. So now you can see where some of these cards are going to be very useful or playable in any single game, no matter what. Like, just example, Detective Chimp. You can play him whenever. Any deck with equipment. Same thing with Zatanna. You could play him. You could technically even play Constantine in anything because you just have to seal it. There's no extra thing to having to seal something. But for Dr. Fate, first time you seal a card each turn, draw a card. He's not gonna be very effective outside of this set or something including this set. He won't be at all effective because you won't have a way to seal stuff. We have Swamp Thing, our Guardian of the Green. Discard a non-weakness card to Surge once per your turns. If you control 2 locations, draw a card. And it's just a running theme with Swamp Thing always having bonuses for locations, so that's pretty cool. In fact, you can Surge and keep making that lineup bigger to let you buy more cards. Although, if you have it up to like 6, 7, you still only replace up to the 5, I believe. We're going to get Ragman. He's one of my favorite magical villains. So his superpower is basically he seals villains inside of his rags, and then they have to atone for their sins by granting him strength and abilities that they have, and then eventually they can repent. So it's kind of neat. Each time you seal a villain, +1 power. So again, he's trying to seal villains away. Once per turn, seal a card from the lineup with a cost less than the cost of a hero or equipment you played this turn. Cool. So yeah, if you play that, you can get it. That's neat. And then we have Man-Bat, which is a very interesting inclusion, especially when you get a superhero for him. Trying to remember his name. Carl. It's I want to say it's Carl, but I think that's wrong. Because then my brain's just trying to say Carl Lycos, but that's Kirk Langstrom. Carl Lycos. It's kind of crazy, right? Carl Lycos is Sauron from the X-Men, who turns into a pterodactyl, and then Kirk Langstrom is Man-Bat. Weird that they have very similar names. for people that scientists can transform. The first time you play a villain each turn, +1 power. First time you play an equipment each turn, you may discard it if you do draw a card. And then finally, we're going to get Wonder Woman. Each time you seal an equipment, +1 power. Once per turn, seal a card from the lineup with a cost less than the villain or superpower you played this turn. So you have to see half of the characters are all about just gaining bonuses from whatever stuff, the other half are all about sealing stuff. So you can kind of play either direction you want to play, which is really fun. Alright, then we're going to look at our starter cards. We have a bunch of punches, 6 for each in a starter deck. I do love that they started including that on the bottom of the cards. They did that, I think that started with Injustice League, or Injustice. That's just really helpful to remember in these games. Like, oh, I have all these cards. What's my starting? I have to pull up the book, hunt down. It's just nice to throw it on the cards. Just my little flavor text. So I get 6 punches each, just give you 1 extra power. Don't do too much else. We're also going to get 2 vulnerabilities. Normally you get 3, but these guys are a little bit stronger, so they don't have as many weaknesses. Again, doesn't do anything, just clogs up your deck, but they throw them in there right off the bat. We are also going to start off with incantation, so each player gets 1 of these. It says transform. You may destroy 4 sealed cards. If you do, seal this card and gain a mystical ritual from the stack to your hand. So this is kind of interesting. You have all these cards you can slowly seal, then you can destroy all of them to gain an extra card. And you can turn this into a mystical ritual, which we'll look at that in just a moment to see what that does. Because we also have 4 copies of sealed defense, 1 for each player again. So this is a starter which doesn't have any. All the other ones had like you had +1 power for your punches, +1 for your incantation. This doesn't have that, but it says transform. You may pay 3 power. If you do, seal this card and gain a defend into your hand. So it's kind of like a mixture between almost like a vulnerability and a power card, because it doesn't do anything until you can afford 3 power, which you could maybe do right off the bat if you like, and transform it and get rid of it, or you might just stick around with it for a while. And then it swatches over to defense, which starts in our transform pile. It says you may surge and defense discard avoiding attack. This is a fun way to give everyone an option to have a defense card right off the bat. I know like sometimes when I play deck builders, I'll modify what cards everyone gets an extra bonus starting card to make the deck a little bit different, or just other than the basic starting. And I found that having like one of them cards, I think it was from the Teen Titans set, that gave everyone defend, just so that everyone had a defense card right off the bat to help avoid attacks from other players, was kind of a nice way to begin the game. So it's kind of cool that just this starts in there. Plus that surge is kind of helpful as well. Alright, then after that we have a pile of mystic rituals. I think there's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of them. So you can purchase these, are like the kicks. They give you 2 power and you may surge. A lot of this extra surge, you need to see a lot more cards in this set because of that. Well, it costs 3. But yeah, it's just kind of neat because you can basically replace this one, your starter card, by destroying 4 sealed cards. You're turning it into a 2 power and a surge, which is a little bit better, but if you can afford to get rid of them surge cards, go ahead and do it, right? Or the sealed cards. You may as well to get this better card in there. Might not want this, you can always get rid of this, or you can just purchase it on its own. Then the last kind of starting cards or setup cards is we have the weaknesses, which are all the same. It says return this card to the stack if destroyed. Discard 2 cards to return this card to its stack. So you're never going to run out of weaknesses, but at least it's a way to get rid of it. And I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 16 of those. Cool. So those are all our main starter deck cards. Let's hop into some heroes that can help us out. Alright, we got 2 copies of Nightmare Nurse, +1 power. You may destroy a card in your discard or your score pile. So that's kind of nice. We want to get rid of some of them extra cards. Not sure why you want to get rid of cards out of your score pile, but there might be reasons for it. We have 2 copies of Tracy 13. Draw a card. Defense. Discard when attack. If you do, seal this card and draw 2 cards. So this is definitely something to work well with that incantation, right? You can either keep playing to draw a card, but if you use it as a defense early on, you're not automatically have to seal it. Once you do that defense, it's going to go away, but at least now you have a way to like use that for something. We have 2 copies of Billy Batson, The Chosen. Transform, you may discard a superpower. If you do, seal this card and gain Shazam, Champion of Magic, onto your hand, or into your hand. Otherwise, gain 1 power. So you can just play him for 1 power, or you can use his ability. I do like that if you notice on the bottoms, they'll have the little symbol on there if they transform. Now, unfortunately, they didn't do that for the starter cards, but that does kind of help at least let you remind what cards have the transform mechanic, and then the actual transform cards have a darker background. So we have 2 copies of Shazam, Champion of Magic. Gives you +3 power, and revert if there are no superpowers in your discard pile. Seal this card and gain Billy Batson, chosen from your score pile. So now, one thing you could definitely do though is you could seal him. You could destroy him with incantation, and then when you have to transform back from Billy Batson, you can always search your discard pile for him. The same thing with revert, is if he was in your score pile, Billy's in your score pile, you could destroy him with one of your other cards. Your first card there, we saw, strike card in your score pile. You can always refine them back in the destroyed pile. So you can always find these transform guys as long as they're not in your decks. There's definitely a way to do that. Got 2 copies of Black Alice. If you have a sealed superpower, +3 power, otherwise +1. It's kind of neat. Some of these cards are cheaper, kind of weak to begin with, but once you start doing some of the other mechanics of the game, they become extra powerful. I got 2 copies of Dr. Kurt Langstrom. Transform, you may discard an equipment. If you do, seal this card and gain Man-Bat, Mutated Scientist, to your discard, into your hand, sorry. Otherwise, you may seal a card in your hand or discard pile. And then to seal any card, so you can get rid of some of your starter cards, potentially a weakness even. You could put weaknesses in your sealed cards, and then you could destroy them. So he's going to transform into a villain, much like the Jason Blood card did. So 2 copies of Man-Bat, Mutated Scientist, +2 power, you may destroy a card you control. Revert, if there are no equipment in your discard pile, seal this card and gain Dr. Kirk Langstrom from your score pile. Cool. We have 2 copies of Mary Bromfield. Also interesting to note here. So if we look at Billy's transformation symbol, if I go back to Billy, it's blue. He's going to transform into a hero. Kirk Langstrom is red, so he's going to transform into a villain. And then we have Mary, who has both, which is very interesting. Mary Bromfield. Transform, you may discard a hero or villain and steal this card. If you discarded a hero, gain Mary Marvel, New Champion, into your hand. If you discarded a villain, gain Mary Marvel, Corrupted, into your hand. Otherwise, +2 power. This is kind of neat, because she can become 2 copies of Mary Marvel, New Champion. She has Hoppy there on her shoulder, which is kind of fun. 4 power, revert. There are no heroes in your discard pile. Seal this and gain Mary Bromfield. So we have one that does superpowers, one that does equipment, now one that does heroes. Or we can get the villain version, Mary Marvel Corrupted, when she kind of joined Black Adam for a while. And it says +4 power, revert if there are no villains. We have 1 for each of those. So the only thing we don't have so far is something for like locations, or starter cards, I guess. 2 copies of Talig Masur, +2 power, defense. Discard this card to avoid an attack. If you do, draw a card and you may seal a card in your hand or discard pile. We have 2 copies of Dead Man. Attack. Each foe reveals the top card of their deck. You may play one of the revealed cards, then return it. If you do not play a card with a cost of 1 or greater, this way draw a card. That's kind of neat. So if you get stuck with a starter card, at least you get a bonus for it. We have 1 copy of Detective Chimp. +2 power. You control an equipment, reveal the top card of the main deck, gain it or seal it. 2 copies of Madame Xanadu. Our tarot card expert. +2 power with the top card of your deck. Discard it or put it in the top or bottom of your deck. 2 copies of Ragman Redeemer. Transform. If you have 5 or more sealed villains, you may seal this card. If you do Ragman, gain Ragman soul power into your hand. Otherwise, seal a villain from the lineup if you cannot gain 2 power. So, bare minimum, 2 power, which isn't great for a 5 cost, but you can possibly seal away a villain, which will prevent other players from using him as well. But he can boost up to 2 copies of Ragman soul powered. +1 for each sealed villain. So it's neat here is, again, this is one that's not going to revert. So basically, just up to 5. So at bare minimum, he'll be 5, but you can always seal a bunch of extra ones using other powers and then make him even more powerful. Plus, you can keep sealing afterwards with other effects. We have the Hellblazer, so Constantine here. After you destroy, discard or seal this card from any zone during your turn, gain it and play it as +2 power. So again, not super powerful on its own. 6 costs for 2 power isn't really that great. But the fact is you can destroy, seal, and discard it, and you get to gain it right back. So having him around, just go ahead and keep recycling him over and over. We have 1 copy of Zatanna Zantara, +2 power. Play the bottom card of your deck, then if you still control it, play it again. Neat. So you gotta keep playing cards from your deck. That's pretty fun. Kent Nelson, also known as Dr. Fate. Play a card with a cost of 5 or less from the lineup, then seal it. So you kind of see these also sort of work very well with their oversized cards. And then our final hero is Wonder Woman. Transform. If there's an attack and a defense card in your play zone or discard pile, you may seal this card. If you do, gain Witch Marked Wonder Woman into your hand. Otherwise, +3 power. And then Witch Marked Wonder Woman. So this is, I believe, Circe? I might be wrong. There's someone that's doing all these witch marking, basically granting boosted magical powers to magical beings. I don't know the storyline exactly. There's +4 power. You may put a defense or attack from your discard pile on top of your deck. Cool. So you gain some cool bonuses there. Now, I notice most of these heroes are about sealing or defending. Not a lot of attacks. I think Deadman might have been the only attack. So we're going to jump into the villains. We'll probably get some more. So there should be 2 copies of every card unless I say otherwise. Just don't have to keep saying 2 of this, 2 of that. Villain. We have Fusili. After you seal this card from any zone, you may pass a card from your discard pile or score pile to a foe's discard pile. +1 power. Interesting. So this would be a good thing to be like, I sealed a weakness, right? And then now toss it over to their discard pile. We have the witch-marked version of Witchfire. +1 power, you may seal this card. If you do, destroy a card in your hand or score pile. Tekel. A little attack of... Why can't I think of his name now? Clarion. Yeah. Well, he has a little pet cat. You may put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck. If you choose not to, 2 power. And why would you not want to? I don't know, maybe you don't have anything in your discard pile. Maybe you only have commons in there. Starter cards, who knows? It might be various reasons. Witchmarked Manitowoc Dawn. 2 power. You may seal this card. If you do, each foe gains a weakness. So you see red. Blue is all about, like, heroes are all about picking cards to seal. Red cards are all about sealing themselves. We have Nick Necro. If you have a sealed equipment, 3 power, otherwise +1. Felix Faust, power hungry. Transform. If you have 4 or more sealed equipment, you may seal this card. If you do, gain Felix Faust unbound into your hand. Otherwise, sealing equipment from the lineup if you cannot gain 2 power. So he's going to become unbound. +2 power, you may put an equipment from your discard or score pile into your hand. So this kind of works sort of like Ragman in a sense, right? Where Ragman got more powerful the more you got rid of. Here you could spend time getting rid of more and more equipment before you transform them. Then you have more and more to activate every time you play them. We have Papa Midnight. +2 power, you may seal a card in your hand or discard pile. If you seal a card at the cost of 1 or greater, this way you draw a card. So, yeah, get rid of a better card, you get an extra card to replace it. Get rid of a starter card, oh well. Solomon Grundy. You don't usually think about when you think of magic, but he has to be somewhat magic-based because he's basically a zombie. +2 power, defense. Discard this to avoid an attack. If you do, put this card in the bottom of your deck and draw a card. Interesting that he's a defense card. We have Cersei, Witch of Area. Transform. If you have 4 or more sealed superpowers, you may seal this card to gain Witch Marked Cersei into your hand. Otherwise, seal a superpower from the lineup if you cannot gain 2 powers. And we have her Witch Marked Cersei version. 2 power, you may put a superpower from your discard pile into your hand. So you're getting that effect a bunch. We only have 1 copy of Clarion. +3 power. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Draw a revealed card with a cost of 3 or less and put the rest back in any order. Nice. We have 1 copy of Enchantress. Desamore. 3 power. Defense. Transform to seal this card from your hand to avoid an attack. If you do, gain June Moore, Freelancer, into your hand. Then the owner of the attack card seals it. So this is kind of interesting because all our other transform cards have more or less been going from like a weaker version to a powerful version. This is actually going the exact opposite. We're going from super powerful Enchantress. She can use her power to seal away an attack card, but then she drops down into a weaker version. So it has +2 power, revert. If you gain 3 or more cards this turn, you may seal this card. If you do, gain Enchantress Desamore from your score pile. So basically she builds up her power again, she can transform back. So it's kind of a neat way to play that mechanic as well. Alright, we have 1 copy of Floronic Man Woodrow. Transform, you may seal a location you control. If you do, seal this card and gain a new avatar of the green into your hand. Otherwise, 3 power. So we're focusing on locations, and he's going to become a new avatar of the green. Draw 2 cards. Take control of all locations in the lineup and in front of each foe until the end of your turn. That is massively powerful because locations have some very powerful abilities. And it's only for 1 turn. We have 1 copy of Aaron the Sorcerer. Transform. If you control a superpower and the equipment, you may seal this card. If you do, Aaron they're rising into your hand. Otherwise, 3 power. And we transform to his Arisen version. +2 power. You may put your deck into your discard pile, and then put a card from your discard pile into your hand. So you dump your entire deck into there, and then you get one of those cards. Plus the fact is now your deck is empty. As soon as you draw it, you're going to reshuffle that discard. So if you purchased a bunch of new cards, this is a great way to get them back into play quick. And then our final villain is Nurgle. +3 power. Oh, sorry, we got 1 more. +3 power attack. Each foe reveals the top card of their deck and gains a number of weaknesses equal to its VP value. So 1, 2, maybe 3 if you're really unlucky. Then the last one we had was kind of tucked away there. Is we had Witchmarked Black Orchid. +2 powered attack. Target foe puts an ongoing card they control into their discard pile. Nice. So those are our heroes and villains. Again, not a ton of attack cards, but a decent amount of defense. Let's look at some superpowers. We have Leather Wings. Again, 2 copies of each unless I say otherwise. If you control a transform card, +3 power, otherwise +1. The sealing spell with the top card of your deck, seal it or return it. Defense, discard this card to one attack. If you do, draw a card. Nice way to get rid of some cheapy cards. Noit Divided, or Divination. Zatanna speaks backwards, so that's her power. Draw 2 cards and put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So you have a choice of what you get. We have Possession, which is Dead Man's ability. Attacks, each foe reveals a non-ongoing card with a cost of 1 or greater from their hand. You may play one of the revealed cards. If you do, return it. Repassid, or Disappear. Draw a card, then you may Surge. Defense, this is card of winning attack. If you do, you may put another card from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck, then draw a card. The Word of Power. Gives you +2 power, but says after you destroy this card or seal this card from any zone, draw a card. So yeah, getting to use that can definitely help you out. The Witch Mark of Hecate. Okay, that's what you gave up. The Witch Mark is Hecate. 2 power. You may seal this card. If you do, put a card from your discard pile into your hand. So a lot of stuff where you're going to search to gain more options. A lot of stuff then where you're sealing cards away, so you're losing cards. So I think it's kind of a neat, interesting way this game is going to play, because you're not gonna always have a ton of cards, because you should be focusing on buying more and then sealing them away, keeping your deck at a maintainable size. We have Channel the Green, +2 power and additional 1 power for each location you control. We have Polymorph, which is funny. I don't know who the different characters are, except for the duck there is Detective Chimp. The hat is kind of cool. +3 power attack. Each foe discards a card with 4 or greater. Each who does puts a card with 0 from the discard pile into their hand. So they trade off their high power card for a more weaker card. Ankh Portal from Dr. Fate. 2 power. If you have a sealed hero, draw a card. Soul Siphon, which has Surge, and you may seal a card from the lineup. Which that can be very helpful. Just, we don't need this level 2 card anymore. Or I really need an equipment card. You can get rid of one without having to take one out of your deck. Alright, and then these ones will have 1 copy of each. We have Magical Shield. You may seal a card in your hand. Ongoing defense, put this card in the bottom of the deck to avoid an attack. It's kind of fun. You seal it and then this kind of sits out until you use it. Sigil of Fate. +1 power and additional +1 power for each different card type amongst your sealed cards. And finally, Change of Fate. +2 power. You may seal a card in your hand or discard pile. Defense, discard this card to avoid an attack. If you do, draw 2 cards. You may seal a card in your hand or discard pile. Cool. These are our superpowers. Let's look at some equipment. We have, again, 2 copies of each unless otherwise noted. We have Ancient Tomes, +1 power, but it says after you discard or seal this card from any zone, you may Surge. So at least they're giving you some of these cards have benefits for doing the sealing or discarding. I like the discard aspect too, because that way if it's just seal, again, it would limit it to only being useful in this deck or this version of the game. But I could mix this in any other game. There's plenty of other cards that let me discard it. Houdini Teeth, +1 power. Take control of a location from the lineup or controlled by another player till the end of your turn. The Ace of Winchesters, +1 power. You destroy a card in the lineup. If you destroy a card with a cost of 5 or greater, draw a card. The 8th Dimensional Map. Transform. You may seal a card with a cost of 5 or greater. If you do, seal this card and gain the Books of Magic into your hand. Otherwise, draw a card. You notice this has the gray symbol on there. So basically, this doesn't do anything other than draw you a card, which isn't terrible. But you can trade it in for the Books of Magic, which now lets you draw 2 cards. This is a neat way to like little minor upgrades on your cards. Kind of like trading a punch for a kick, right? The punch does one, starter card does one, kick costs you a bit, but now it does two, so it takes the place of two cards. This essentially does the same thing. I could buy two of these and draw two cards, or I could get this and draw two cards with one card. Sword of Knight. +2 power, defense, discards to win attack. If you do, put a location from your discard pile or score pile into your hand and draw a card. Interesting. The Mambat Serum. +2 power. Says after you discard or seal this card from any zone, you may destroy a card in your hand or discard pile. We have the Moonblade, New Moon. Transform. If you destroy a card this turn, you may seal this card. If you do, gain Moonblade, Full Moon into your hand. Otherwise, 2 power. And then if we upgrade it to the Full Moon version, +3 power and an attack. Each foe reveals the top card of their deck. You may seal one of the revealed cards. Revert. If you seal the card with a cost of 3 or greater this way, seal this card and gain Moonblade, New Moon from your score pile. So that's kind of neat. This one goes back and forth then. Basically, if you get rid of their weaker cards, you get to keep this out and keep using it. But if you start getting rid of the more powerful cards, then you have to kind of start the whole thing over again. And it costs you a card to seal it. So you're sealing one of your things to seal one of theirs. A Suit of Souls, +2 power. If you have sealed a villain, draw a card. The Staff of Merlin, +2 power. You may play non-transform cards from your score pile. If you do, destroy it. Interesting. That's kind of neat. The Heart of Darkness. Transform. If you have 5 or more sealed heroes, you may seal this card. If you do, gain a Eclipso Possessor into your hand. Otherwise, seal a hero from the lineup if you cannot gain +2 power. So this is fun because it's an equipment that becomes a villain. The Eclipso Possessor has +1 power for each sealed hero. And then we have Dreamstone, +2 power. Each foe gains a weakness. We have 1 copy of the Scarab Necklace. Transform. If you control 5 or more cards, including this one with different card types, you may seal a card. Or seal this card. If you do, gain Black Adam Corrupted into your hand. Otherwise, draw a card. You may destroy a card in your discard pile, hand, or score pile. Yes, you have to control a bunch of different cards to be able to do this, but it's going to become Black Adam Corrupted. You may put any number of cards with a cost of 5 or less in different card types you chose from your discard pile into your hand. If you choose not to, +3 power. And our last equipment is going to be the Helmet of Fate. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Draw 1, seal 1, put 1 on the top or bottom of your deck. Nice. Just stack your deck a little bit. Note as you do this, you have to seal a card, so be prepared to maybe lose something you might have wanted. Interesting. Alright, then we're going to look at our locations. So we got a bunch in this set. 1 copy of each location. The House of Mystery. Ongoing. Once per turn, you may pay 3 power. If you do, seal the top card of the main deck. The Oblivion Bar. Ongoing. The first time you seal a card each turn, let the top card of your deck destroy it or return it. Mira. Ongoing, each time you seal a card, +1 power. So far they're all about sealing stuff. The House of Secrets. Ongoing, each time you play or seal a villain during your turn, +1 power, you may surge. The Tower of Fate. Once per turn, you may seal a card from the lineup with a cost less than the equipment you played this turn. Naya Parbat. This is Deadman's base of operations. Once per turn, if you play a superpower this turn, let the top card of your deck draw it or seal it. We have the Tree of Wonder. Ongoing, the first time you play a transform card each turn, draw a card. And then the last one is the Hall of Justice Archives. Ongoing, once per turn. If you play a hero this turn, draw the bottom card of your deck. Kind of interesting. That's the only one that doesn't have sealing or transforming. So it can definitely work in any game, but all the rest are kind of getting built around this particular expansion. Alright, so that's all of our regular main deck cards, and we do have our supervillains or nemesis to look at. Alright, let's look at our supervillains or nemesis. So I do love the fact they started putting the levels on there, which is kind of neat because they do reflect some of the other game mechanics from the other versions, as well as it's kind of like, hey, I can not just go by cost in order, I can also put them in levels. So I can have like X number of level 1s and level 2s, which is kind of fun. So we have Hexcake to start with. So you need to figure she gets rewards. So the top 2 cards are the main deck. Then from then on, we're going to get first appearances. We have Brother Knight. So first appearance attack. Each player gains a weakness unless they steal a hero from their hand or discard pile. Reward. You may gain a hero from your score pile or the lineup. This would be a way to get back some of them heroes that only transform once. Then you have the way to play that guy again. If something ever happened to the transform version, you have a way to play him again. Dr. Destiny. First appearance attack. Each player shuffles 3 different cards with a cost of 0 from the discard pile into their deck. For each card, you cannot discard a card. Reward. You may destroy a card you control and or in your score pile. The other kind. First appearance attack. When players the most sealed cards gains a weakness, then each player discards a card. Reward. Each foe discards a random card. Morgan Le Fay. Attack. Each player gains a weakness unless they steal an equipment from their hand or discard pile. Reward. You may gain equipment from your score or the lineup. Merlin. Each player puts a superpower from their discard and their score pile into the lineup. For each card, you cannot gain a weakness. Reward. Steal a superpower from the lineup. You may put it on top of your deck. Mordu. Attack. Each player puts a non-starter transform card from their hand or discard pile into the lineup. Each player cannot gain a weakness. Reward. You may transform a card in the lineup you control or your discard pile. And that is a free transformation. That's pretty cool. Neuron. Attack. Each player gains the top card of the main deck and adds a number of weakness cards equal to its BP. Reward. You may pass a card from your discard score pile to each foe's hand. Lord Satanus. Attack. Each player puts 2 sealed non-nemesis villains in the bottom of the main deck. For each card, you cannot gain a weakness. Reward. Seal a villain from the lineup. You may put it on top of your deck. And then the last one, which is blue, to signify it should be the last card, which is usually level 4 cards. We have the Upside Down Man. Unavoidable first appearance. You can't avoid this one with the defense. Each player destroys up to 4 sealed cards of the different card types. For each, you do not gain a weakness. Cool. So that's all of our main deck cards for the Justice League Dark. We're going to go through the Kickstarter cards really quickly here. And then we'll do the Injustice League Dark as a part 2 video, because this video is getting a little long as it is. So let's hop into those. So if you get the Kickstarter stuff, we're going to get 2 brand new heroes. We're going to get Deadman. Each time you play a card you don't own, +1 power. Discard a card with a cost of +1. Put the top card of the foe's deck. Play the top card of the foe's deck. Return it at the end of the turn. So at least he funnels his own power, right? Discard a powerful card, use somebody else's. And you also gain extra power for it. And then we have Madame Xanadu. Once per your turns, reveal the top card of your deck. If it shares a non-starter type of the card you play this turn, draw it. Otherwise, you may discard it. It's kind of neat. So the later you play it, you have maybe more option to get that card. You also get through some other cards you don't want. Pretty cool. Alright. Then we're going to have a brand new set of starter cards. Kickstarter, exact same as the regular starter cards. It's just for the 5th player. So we get our 6 punches, 2 vulnerabilities, a sealed defense, a defense, incantation. We're going to gain 4 more weaknesses to match the extra player, and 3 more mystical rituals, just to add up to the number of having a 5th player in the game. That's kind of cool. They did that in the Injustice set, and they did that in this. It's kind of a neat way to like, hey, you're kickstarting this, you probably own a bunch of this stuff. Here's a way to play with an extra player. Pretty cool. Alright, then we're going to jump into some of our heroes. We have Zatara, so Zatanna's brother, +1 power. You may put 1 card from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. Raven, Rachel. +1 power and destroy a card in your hand. Transform. If you destroy a card with a cost of 1 or greater this way, seal this card and gain a Dark Raven into your discard pile. Now I have a Dark Raven there, which is negative VP, so pay attention to that. +5 power and gain a weakness. Revert. If you control 2 or more heroes, you may return this card to the transformation zone and gain Raven Rachel from your score pile. She's just pretty darn powerful, right? It goes from 1 power up to 5, but you're going to keep gaining weaknesses, so it's a little off. Shade, the Changing Man. +2 power. If you control a transform card, draw a card. That's cool. Dr. Mist. +3 power. Attack. Each foe puts a card with a cost of 0 from their discard pile or score pile at the bottom of their deck. Nice. Kind of punishes people for getting rid of their starter cards. Then we're going to jump into some villains. We have the Demons 3. It's +2 power, so if you seal or destroy this card from any zone, you get +3 power. Nice. Ember, +2 power. You may seal this card. If you do, destroy the number of cards in the lineup, any number of cards in the lineup, then refill the lineup. Very cool. If you need to just get rid of some stuff. Jinx, draw a card. If you control a location, +2 power. You may destroy a card in your discard and or score pile. Mr. E, +2 power with a defense. Discard to avoid an attack. If you do, with the top card of your deck, seal it or return it, then draw 2 cards. Tanarak is +2 power. It says after you destroy or seal this card from any zone, gain the top card of the main deck. I love that. Like, gives you reasons to destroy or seal these certain cards. Then we're looking at some magical cards. We have 2 copies of Magical Portal. Superpower cards and magical cards. +1 power. You may put any number of cards you gain this turn on the top or bottom of your deck. We have 1 Eldritch Magic. +2 power. You may put a transform or revert card from your discard pile on top of your deck. And 1 copy of a Rip Asunder. Or tearing apart Entragon, it looks like. +3 power. Attack. Each foe reverts a transform card in their discard pile. They seal it and gain the transform version from their score. Nice. Skeleton Key. So we had the other key, which is the Houdini key. Now I have Skeleton Key. +2 power. You may seal this card. If you do, put a transform card from your discard pile into your hand. And then we get some magical defenders. We have the Boots of Delphi. You may gain a location from the lineup or your score pile and put it into your hand. If you choose not to, +2 power. The Breastplate of Hoku. Seal the top 2 cards of the main deck. Defense. Discard this to avoid an attack. If you do, draw a card and seal the top card of the main deck. Cloak of Sura. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it has a cost of 3 or less, draw it. Otherwise, plus power equal to its cost. The Gauntlets of Marath. +2 power. If you have 5 or more sealed cards, draw a card. And the last main deck card we get is Limbo Town. Ongoing once per your turn. Go to the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back in any order. Nice. You get some fun, extra cool Kickstarter cards. Then we have some more Nemesis. Nemesis? We actually get one that's a superhero. So we get Zantara. First appearance, attack. Each player puts 2 cards from their hand to the bottom of their deck. Reward, you may put a card you control and or from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. And then we also get John Constantine. Each player reveals the top 4 cards of their deck. Destroy a revealed card with a cost of 1 or greater, and then discard the rest. Reward: destroy any number of cards in the lineup. At the end of the turn, draw an extra card. Nice. You might be like, well, why are these guys heroes that you have to fight? Because they're magic users. Magic users sometimes run that line between not being a superhero or being a villain, and necessarily just being like, we need to do what needs to be done, even if the other quote-unquote heroes don't agree with us. Constantine's noble for that. We have Manback. Of course, he is a villain. Attack. Each player gains a weakness and puts it on the bottom of their deck. Reward: you may put a villain or equipment you control in your discard pile on top of your deck. Clarion. Unavoidable first appearance. Each player seals a card of the cost of 1 or greater in their hand and discard pile. Reward: gain Pico Familiar from the transformation zone into your discard pile. This is kind of neat too. I love this as an idea. You defeat a villain and we get a regular villain card for it. You may gain a card you destroyed from the destroy pile and put it into your hand. If you choose not to, +2 power. So that's kind of cool. We have Enchantress, who's back down to a level 1. Reward: each foe gains a weakness. So whenever they're level 1s, just means that they're, so I think these guys started off as level 2s and 3s, so level 1s don't have the reward. The other guys that start on the top. What's neat about this is it gives you an alternate character to start with instead of the one that started in the main deck, or in the main game. Anti-Arcane. Attack: each player reveals a random card from their discard pile, and you may destroy it. If you did not destroy a card with a cost of 1 or greater, gain a weakness. Reward: you may seal up to 2 cards from the destroyed pile. The Queen of Fables. Attack: each player seals the top card of their deck. If you seal the card with 0 this way, discard a card. Reward: you may gain a card with a cost of 5 or less from the lineup. The Lords of Orders. These are different equipment we just saw. Different items each one had. With Dr. Fate in the middle. First appearance: attack. Each player gains a weakness for every 5 cards in their score pile. Reward: seal up to 2 cards from the lineup. And then our final Kickstarter card and our final card of this is Xanadoth, a Lord of Chaos. Attack: each player destroys a random card from their hand, and then destroys the top card of their final deck. And the last guys, again, will always have this blue on here, and they don't have a reward because once you beat them, the game is over. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. We got some extra Kickstarter stuff, so yeah, if you're looking at picking up these extra cool cards, you get some neat extra bonuses. The Justice League Dark set in itself it's a really neat concept. The sealing and transforming stuff is really neat. Do like the idea of being able to change into different characters, which is kind of cool. It'd be interesting to see if they expand this mechanic into any other sets. That's somewhat the downside of the way some of these games work. Is like lots of the crossover expansions they get, they had new keywords, and then they were never seeing any other set. And that's sort of the thing is I would love more if this game worked more like some other legacy card games versus own set aside games where, hey, we introduced this keyword, we're gonna bring it back in this other set. Like the Marvel Legendary deck building does that. They'll come back to a new set like 3 or 4 sets later, add some new keywords, add some old stuff. It'd be neat to come back to this at least at some point for some other characters that do transformations or different stuff like that. It'd be a neat idea. But we'll see what happens. Alright, that's what we have for the core Justice League Dark plus the Kickstarter stuff. We'll come back and we'll look at the Injustice League Dark expansion and that Kickstarter stuff in part 2 of this video. See you guys there. Bye.